call the Thursday, December 4th, 2025 meeting of the Cumberland Planning Board to order. Roll call. Mr. Zuck.
Here.
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Scown.
Here.
Ms. Reese.
Here.
Mr. D'Ambrosia. Mr. Costa. And Mr. O'Neill. Here. Okay. All right. And the chair's present, of course. Okay. Approval of the, yeah. Sure, oh. Psst, 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 psst. Just say present. Okay, good. All right. Approval of the planning board minutes of September 25th, 2025 and October 30th, 2025. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? And if not, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Butler,
Second.
second by Ms. Reese. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, Technical Review Committee reappointment of public member Mark Catadella, term to expire December 31st, 2025, reappointment term to expire December 31st, 2027. Is he present? Okay. Well, anyway, welcome. All right.
He's been great so
Yep.
far. He's been really asking really good questions. He's really interested in being on the TRC, and I think he's learned a lot, and he's helping develop projects with the other departments. So he's been a great asset.
Super. So, on item number 4, public hearing.
Do we need a motion to
I
reappoint?
think you have
No,
to
no, this,
appoint,
who?
to
We reappoint them?
reappoint him.
Oh, our job, okay. Well,
I'll
then,
make a
Mr. Butler.
motion to approve the reappointment.
Have a motion by Mr. Butler,
Second.
second by Mr. Scown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes yes, motion carries. Okay. Public hearing, Major Land Development Comprehensive Permit Preliminary Plan, project name Steeple and Stone, St. Patrick's Church, owner applicant Oneyville Housing Corporation, DBA One Neighborhood Builders, location 295 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 266, and 305 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 264. The zone is C1 with public water and sewer. The applicant has revised previously approved preliminary plan. The current proposal will preserve and adaptively reuse the vacant St. Patrick Church and redevelop the property into 60 rental units that will be 100% affordable. The project has been approved for 44 units at 100% affordable. The applicant requests the following adjustments from residential density. Maximum lot coverage and number of buildings on a lot, approval of the preliminary plan, and approval of a performance and maintenance bond in the amount of $186,942. Mr. Modica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board's seen this project several times over the past few years. You approved the preliminary plan back in January 23, and just a couple of months ago, you had a pre-application meeting where they presented a new project, a revised plan from what you had originally approved. Originally, it was 44 rental units that would be 100% affordable. 21 would be in the rehabilitated church. There would be 14 units in a new building, and there were going to be 3 townhomes with 3 units each that were going to be along Broad Street. As the applicant mentioned at the pre-application meeting, there's been some difficulty securing state funding, so they revised the proposal from 44 units to 60 units, and still it's going to be 100% affordable. 10 of these units are going to be reserved for people in the PACE program. They're people who need care, and they generally don't drive. So, as similar to the original proposal, the church is going to be rehabilitated into 21 units The townhomes have been removed from the project, so there's going to be one larger 3-story building that's going to have 39 units. There'll be 63 parking spaces. This is reduced from the original 69 that were proposed. And then overall, as we've talked about over the past few years, this site has been dormant for a long time. And we have an iconic church here on the corner that's been sitting vacant. So we know something has to happen to this site. It's a commercial zone, so by right, we could have a commercial use here and the church probably wouldn't stay. So, but what we have is a great affordable housing where we're getting 100% affordable units, which the town needs. So the planning department thinks this is an excellent reuse of this site. In terms of the adjustments that are requested, for the last go-round that the planning board approved, there were some adjustments related to the townhouses that were along Broad Street. They didn't meet the minimum setback and the distance between the residential buildings. So those adjustments have been eliminated from this project. The adjustments that they do need will start with residential density, right? And with comprehensive permits, that's just the nature of how it is. You have to give an adjustment for residential density because they're getting a density bonus. They have to create more units. The second adjustment is for number of buildings on a lot, and there's going to be 2 in this case. The planning board previously approved the project where there were 5 buildings. There was the church, the rebuilt rectory, and 3 townhouses. So again, to make this a viable project, you need more than just to rehabilitate the church. You need to have more units there to make it feasible. The third adjustment is for lot coverage. 40% is the maximum in commercial zones. Currently, it's 56%, and they are proposing 70%, which is actually less than the 72.5% from the previously approved preliminary plan. And I think it's generally offset, if you look at the site plan, by the landscaping that you see there. I think they did a nice job. So it doesn't really present as a lot of asphalt or impervious surface. And the fourth adjustment, which we forgot to put in the staff report, is it's a commercial zone, so there has to be a commercial use. But this is going to be 100% residential, so that would be the fourth adjustment for you to consider. Overall, we think this is a great proposal, and as we stated in the staff report, the planning department finds that the preliminary plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan, mostly because it provides much-needed affordable housing and because they're going to be adaptively reusing a historic church. So we are recommending approval with 2 conditions: that the 2 lots be merged and that they provide the physical alteration permit from RIDOT.
Does the board have any questions or comments for Mr. Modico?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Costa?
how are they making out with the financing of this project? I mean, they came before us, and I think that was an issue, was it not?
The financing was an issue. I'm going to let the applicant, they're more in the weeds with that and more familiar than,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thank
Modico.
you.
Thank you.
Well, we will hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the planning board. My name is Ken McGonigal from the firm of McGonigal Hent, and I'm here on behalf of One Neighborhood Builders. As you know, we've been around a while now, and we're happy to be back. We appreciate the time that you've all given us, that the staff has given us. We'll try to, that last question with Mr. Costa and Mr. Monica is an area that we can talk about, and we'll try to not repeat things that Glenn just said, but talk about what we do know. My presentation tonight is as follows. If it's okay with you, we will hear from Michelle Blue. She's the Director of Real Estate at One Neighborhood. This is her project. Joe Haskett is our architect from Union Studio. Steve Andrus from Commonwealth Engineers is our engineer, and Diane Sewell is our landscape architect. So I'd like to ask them to come up in that order, and we will, Mr. Monica's staff report is so inclusive as to findings that I'm going to, and certainly obviously that his report is part of the record, so I'm going to try to shorthand some of the testimony that I elicit from the experts, because you've got it in front of you. They've read it, and they agree with him. So first, Michelle Blue from One Neighborhood.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board and staff. It's a pleasure. Oh, sorry. Michelle, Michelle, last name Blue, Eleau. Thank you. That's okay. Pronounced that way, right? A very special thank you to all of you tonight, and also a thank you, hopefully, for your support and approval of our revised preliminary plan. I will keep my opening remarks brief, of course, to reserve your time with our expert consultants and let them really give a full overview of our presentation. But just to speak on behalf of my entire team at One Neighborhood, we're really thrilled with the revised preliminary plan. Everything's really coming together beautifully as it relates to the artistic vision as well as programmatically. So very excited to share this presentation with you all today. And as Glenn noted, while our revised preliminary plan will inevitably help the development score more competitively within Rhode Island Housing's consolidated round, it will also add more affordable units to the town's housing stock compared to what was previously proposed. So we think that's a win from our perspective. As Glenn also noted, we're pleased to report that the PACE organization still remains very interested in this development partnership. So we're very grateful for their revised MOU, which we will be submitting with our consolidated funding round application. I'm sorry, consolidated funding round application. To answer your question about the funding for the project, we do plan to submit this project for funding in the upcoming consolidated round due December 18th. I always like to note that it is highly competitive, but this project before you today and with your approval brings us one step closer to actually having a project that is financially feasible and is getting the attention of Rhode Island Housing as a viable development. The last update I wanted to provide is that Rhode Island Housing has actually awarded the project a $56,000 pre-development grant. We received that award in October. So that's really great. And it's just, further shows their support for this new plan. So we're hoping that helps with some momentum going into the consolidated round. Next time I'll go slower for you the whole time. I'm sorry. You told me that last time too. Yeah. And I'll hand it just back. In case of any questions. Oh yeah, sorry, any questions?
Does the board have any questions?
Okay.
Thank
Here
you.
to answer any if they arise throughout. Thank you.
So moving right along, Joe Haskett from Union Studios, I'd asked him to come up. I did hand out, in the order of presentation, the resumes of our experts. And Mr. Haskett's extensive resume is in front of you all. I'm hoping that you might consider him as an expert in the field of architecture.
I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Haskett as a expert witness.
Mr. Butler, I have a second. Okay. Motion by Mr. Butler and a second by Mr. Scown. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board staff. Thank you very much for allowing us to share the project with you this evening. I'm just going to run through a few images just to kind of give an overview of how we arrived at this particular design. As you'll see here, this is the architectural site plan. As Michelle mentioned, we have our civil engineer here. We also have our landscape architect that will go through their respective expertise in their particular realm. But I will stick to the architecture. Just wanted to share a few things with you about how we sited this particular building. One of the things we were very concerned about was how it fronted on Broad Street. And so we wanted to have an alignment with the church where the steeple is, and then also thinking about the width between the church and the new building And that's why you see on the left, you see the church there has a width, and then we have a kind of a projection of the building sticking out, which has a similar relationship and width to the church. And then if you see the purple line, that is the setback, again, having a relationship with the church and the new building, so that there's some type of context and continuity. We're not trying to turn our eye to the church or kind of ignore the church. We're trying to embrace the church and make this look like one cohesive project. The other thing I wanted to point out, and we'll let Diane talk about the landscape, is we really tried to pay attention to the greenery and the landscaping of the site, really trying to envelop the whole project, which is very important for the tenants and also for the town and the passersby. Also, one of the things that we created here was a courtyard between the church and the new building. And then if you see in the yellow there, I'm putting it out here, right in that area, that's the community room, not only fronting on the courtyard, but also fronting on Broad Street. And then the other thing was when we concentrated on the buildings, pushing those to the front, having a conversation with the church, we really tried to push the parking to the side and to the rear, so that I think Mr. Modica said it best, is not to have a lot of asphalt and paving that's visible to the passerby. And then I'll just run through the floor plans very quickly. This is, the church is on the left, the new building is on the right. Very straightforward. One of the things, the large arrow represents the main entry to the building. One of the things we were very concerned about was how these two buildings connected to one another, how the wayfinding could be had. So that dashed line represents a connection from the new building through the connector to the church. And then as off of that, we have the secondary, kind of the purple dashed lines are the secondary components that represent the hallways and corridors through the buildings. Double loaded corridors, very efficient. And then these are not only the main entry in the upper right, but then you have the secondary egress components that front onto Broad Street with the smaller red arrows to the bottom of the screen. And then just to show you a couple tertiary egress components from in this portion, we have a couple of openings off of the community room, and then we have a couple of openings off of the connector. One of the things I wanted to point out was in the church, this is the existing altar, which we are retaining as a double height space. We are not covering it up. We think that could be a nice component, and it's also one of the things that One Neighborhood Builders has an MOU with the State Historic Preservation Office that this gets retained, and I think one of the conditions is that there's a plaque that talks about this particular St. Patrick's Church, which is important to retain, not only in the architecture that we're doing, but also in symbolism, what St. Patrick's meant to this community for years. And then just to show again, the community room facing on the courtyard, Broad Street. This represents the second floor, just representing that this is stacked. It aligns with the first floor. Again, a double-loaded corridor. In the third floor, this is the upper level in the new multifamily, again, stacking above the second. And then I just wanted to run through a couple of the elevations. Obviously, this is the church. This is our proposed design, and this is the connector. We've kind of intentionally left them really just kind of more diagrammatic at this point, not to show any color, but it really just starts to show the massing, the fenestration, the entry points, the community room. So this is fronting on Broad Street. Give you an idea of what it looks like on the side along Church Street. And then this is, if you were going to pull in from Broad Street over here, come through the parking lot, this is what the entry would look like along the side. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions as I go along. We did want to show a couple of renderings, 3D perspectives of what this would look like to give you an idea of context. Obviously, this is the existing condition that you see now. And then what we want to show here is the relationship of this particular building that I demonstrated. This portion is kind of positioned out a little bit further. This portion is stepped back. Those are kind of things that we try to do to make this be contextual, have a certain eye to the church and its widths and its heights. And this is an aerial view to kind of accentuate what it looks like. This is that courtyard, obviously Broad Street, this stepping back, and this is the entry over to the parking. And I think this is our last image, a little bit of a colored rendering, just to show what it would look like. Maybe this course is a little bit darker, a little bit lighter up above. But again, you can start to see the relationship of height, width, in comparison to the existing church. That's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions if members of the board have any questions.
I just had a quick question about the handicap parking. And I was just trying to figure out the placement, why the handicap parking isn't kind of around the corner closer to the main entrance. Looks like people park in the they'd have to kind of walk down that long sidewalk to get to the main entrance.
Let me go back to that real quick. Okay, you know what, I'll let the civil
Yeah,
engineer
sure.
take
Yep,
care of that one, is that okay? Okay, great. Anyone else?
Mr. D'Ambrosio.
I know it's early on in the process, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about what you're thinking about materials and how the materials of the new building are going to relate to the church, since they're going to be physically and visually connected.
It's a very good question. I think what we're proposing is to have, we're very contextual in our office, very vernacular oriented. So one of the things what I would say is, whoops, sorry, bouncing around here, is we're proposing that this would be a clapboard siding, typical vernacular. This is obviously stone, but this is a wood frame, so that would make sense that it would be more clapboard. I think one of the things that we're starting to look at is maybe this particular material is maybe a darker material so that you could differentiate between the lower level and the upper level. But for all intents and purposes, it's really architectural shingles for the roof, a clapboard type of siding here. I think right now, one of the things I could say is maybe clapboard at the base or maybe a board and batten at the base. We're not exactly certain, but it would be very contextual, very New England, very vernacular. It wouldn't be anything that, would be, somebody would walk by or drive by and say, what is that? It would be very contextual.
And is that in an effort, I know sometimes with historical buildings, historic preservation is like to have an adjacent building be very different so that it doesn't try to blend in. Is that kind of the idea here?
I would very much agree with that in terms of it. I wouldn't say very different. I would just say because of the way that it's built and the typology of its wood frame, that this would be typical to New England. If it's a church, obviously with its masonry, its heavy stone, that is very vernacular to a church. To this type of building, I would say that clapboard or board and batten is very contextual, very appropriate for this type of project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Butler?
Just kind of piggybacking that, one of the things with the first proposal where there was the townhouses, I remember the architect kind of talking about having different colors or shades of color of the townhouses to kind of break things up so it didn't look like this big mass. So I think if the clapboards could have some color variation, because it is going to be a big building kind of compared to what's there now. So I think having something that isn't just a long white 3-story building would kind of add a little bit to that section.
No, I would agree with that. And I think that's one of the things that's why when you look at certain moves like this, where this comes out and this steps back, that allows us to break up that facade. So it's not just one large monolith, and that allows us to use different materials, different textures, maybe different colors. I wouldn't go too crazy with color, but I think with the massing that we're trying to do there, breaking that down, little moves like this helps us, allow us to break down that monolith.
Ms. Reese?
Can you go back to the very first, the building?
The very first slide?
Yeah, the building and the church, yes. The apartment, the medical building, that's what I seen there.
Go to the first slide?
No,
Oh, the rendering.
Elevator,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yep. Let me go back.
yeah,
Oop, sorry.
okay. The church, I already know it's that way, and you're showing us the side of the church that faces Church Street. That's what we're looking at. So it's already existing, beautiful. That building, is not something that that I would like to see in that area. I know you put a lot of work into it, but it's like, doesn't really fit in that neighborhood. I don't, it looks like a medical building. It looks to me something that was put together very quickly because we got to do it and put it up because we want to go from 40 to 60 or 44 to 60. It doesn't, it's not appealing to me, and that's my opinion. If you had shown me a picture of what it's really going to look like, maybe I would change my mind, but it's white. And we had another project not long ago that looked exactly like that, and I said, go back and change it because it looks like a medical building. It doesn't look good in there. And being a nurse, that's what I'm looking at, a nursing home with little windows and 2 doors, with a little yard in the middle for the patients to come out in a wheelchair, and that's what I'm visualizing there. I'm sorry. I know my opinion. I don't like for that neighborhood, and I'm part of the neighborhood. That's my.
Elizabeth, if you've seen this,
I've seen that.
the texture's a little bit different here.
No, it's still a setback. I can see the setback in there. That second building is pushed back a little bit, like the townhouses were. They were stacked one, then the other, and the other. I can see that, and you showed us that purple line, that it's the setback that goes with the church, the second building. I understand all that. It's just the appearance of that building. It's like nothing to it. Look at that. All roof and windows, 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 windows. What? Yeah. My opinion, again, yeah. It could be a better,
I mean, I don't think I really see that. It actually, oddly enough, reminds me of an apartment building I used to live at when I was in graduate school. Looks very similar to a 3-story.
yeah, but where are the apartment buildings in Valley Falls? Tell me about it. I know we have changed, and I know we need them, and I know we need affordable. We have the Hen and Hope, perfect for apartments. Mill Street, perfect for apartments. Broad Street, not so, I'm not too sure if this is what. Again, yeah, even if it's a dorm. Little balconies in there, something that makes it look a little, I don't know what I was thinking, but I expected something a little different. When I looked at these, I'm saying, oh my God, not another one, pizza place, apartment looking. But sorry that I took the time, but I needed to.
Can I make an additional comment?
Sure.
So it also made me think, just because I'm an apartment coming up soon, there are medical buildings on Broad Street, so if it did look like a medical building,
Where on Broad Street? Where are the medical buildings? Where? Push back, we're in the back, brick building, again, brick building, push back.
Cumberland Radiology, which I have in front of me.
Right, but not as big as these.
Not as big, no,
No?
not the same.
Okay.
No. It's a different.
It's totally different layout, it's pushed back, it's not right on the facing of brick. Yes, very different. And again, if you had shown me, I don't want to take no time, my colleagues have their opinion too, and they can, so I've expressed myself today, it's my thing. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Zook.
I love that you're using the church and being sensitive to the history of the church. My question is regarding the proposed 10 PACE apartments, those units. Is the thought that they will be in a specific place? Would they be on the ground floor? Does the proposed 3-story building have an elevator?
Very good question. And I think we have not located the particular PACE units, but most likely would. PACE units, P-A-C-E. But more times than not, we locate those on the first floor, and most of these units are very similar to one another. And I forget your second part of that. The elevator, yes, this is elevator serviced. There's a new elevator in this particular building. Every portion of this is fully accessible. That's where the connector comes in. So if someone were to visit someone in the church and they're on the second floor, they could use the elevator here, go up and over, and be fully accessible to all the units within the church.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
that one elevator?
One elevator.
Because that was going to be my question, because I wasn't quite sure where the elevator was.
Elevator's right here. And if we go back to this particular plan here, this is why it was important for us to have this connector. So it's a complex site when you have to find parking and put it in relationship to the street and think about scale and massing. We found that this connector, call it kind of the backbone, allows for somebody to come in, enter here. There's an office, there's a mailbox. So anybody in the church, they could come here, use the elevator, and then go directly here. If I go to the second floor, they could come up, and this is the connector here, and then they could go this way down this corridor here. So we tried to align as much as the important elements, wayfinding, accessibility, tried to make that all within one kind of spot.
Mr. Costa, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I'm just curious, how do you figure out where the elevator is going to be and how many are going to be?
So one of the things that typically what we try to do is in the form of wayfinding. When somebody comes into a building off the main entry, that's where you want to have most of the egress elements. Maybe a stair. We usually have to have 2 means of egress. So that's why we have one of the stairs here, and we have the elevator here so that somebody entering can find immediately where they need to go. So that's why we put the elevator here, and then we tried to put the adjacent connector in line with that so that people could find their way through the building rather easily and not have, say, the elevator over here, the connector over here, and maybe the entry in the back. So we tried to align that so that people could find their way through the building much more easier than if the components were, disparately put throughout the building.
So if you have somebody moving in and they need the elevator, obviously for furniture and their personal items, no one else would be able to use the elevator because they would need that elevator for that morning or afternoon or whenever. I just don't see one elevator here being enough for that site.
In most of our projects, if this is 60 units, one elevator is more than enough.
For 60 units?
We usually have one elevator for 150 units.
Are they oversized elevators?
They have to meet code, they have to have stretcher compliance so that somebody can have a stretcher put into it. But we find that this is, for 60 units, we would foresee no problem. Now, to your point, there would be a management side to that, to when people are moving in and how they would manage that. That would have to be, with the management
Time
team.
constraints.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, in regard to that, my concern now, how many floors are on the church? 2 or 3?
2.
2? I mean, if somebody is at the front of the church, and most of these people are elderly people, supposedly, or have some issues, I mean, how are they going to escape if there's some type of emergency quickly? They're only going to be able to use stairs in the church, is that correct? I mean, most of the time you wouldn't be able to use an elevator in an emergency anyway, but it just seems like an awful long distance from the elevator to the front of the church?
It's a good question. I think that that's why we tried to, if you look at it, if someone's here on the third
There
floor,
as well, yeah.
there's the amount, particularly same amount of distance that they would have to travel. Again, agreed, this is a little bit longer, but maybe not that much. So that's why we tried to locate the elevator here. But in the moment of an emergency, we have satisfied all of the egress components. So there are 3 stairs within this, actually there are 4 stairs. There's a stair here, a stair here, a stair here, and a stair here.
Stairs at the end?
Stair at the end, yes, correct.
All right.
Well, correct me,
Yeah.
all of that's regulated by the code, correct?
Completely, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Both building code and NFPA, National Fire Protection Association.
Anyone else? Again, going back to Ms. Reese's comments, and I will admit that when I look at this plan here, okay, its elevation, it does very much look institutional. However, when I look at this perspective, it looks a little bit different. And I'm just wondering, as far as we were talking about textures and so on, if we somehow broke up the textures on the building, would that make it look, I'll just say more architecturally pleasing to the eye?
Yeah, no, and I think that, I mean, the one thing for when you look at a building in kind of a more 2D, it's hard to see it in the way that we've tried to craft in terms of massing and step back. So I think that that's why this rendering at street level, not the aerial is just kind of allows you to kind of see it overall, but this is kind of giving you a more realistic depiction of what it's going to look like. And I think that's why when you set this portion back, that when you see it in a 2D elevation, it does, I'll grant you, it does look large, right? But when we step it back 10 to 12 feet, that's why this width now has a relationship to this width of the church. And by breaking it up that way through massing and step backs, that allows you, so it doesn't read as one wall. And then to your point, there are ways that, starting to think about the base as maybe a different texture, maybe a board and batten, which is one of the first vernacular sidings that we did in the Americas. You could look at something like that, and then you differentiate. So not only do you break it up on a side-to-side basis, but you can break it up vertically, and that's where you also get the gables and the overhangs, and you can have shadows and things like that to break it up.
And to me, and I agree with Mr. Kutu and Ms. Reese, when you just look at the drawing, it looks maybe a little bit institutional, but when I look at this rendering, from that perspective, it looks like all the other 3-family houses that are in that neighborhood.
It looks different.
But I mean, it's
Yeah.
got the gables, it's got the porch, it's clapboard, that's all the houses in this area. They're all 3-family, walk-ups that are clapboard with maybe brick foundations or cement foundations and, small yards with little bushes in the front. Say, to me, that rendering looks like it fits in with the neighborhood. I understand Ms. Reese's concern. Compared to what's there, which is nothing, I mean, the rectory is all the way in the back of that property, it's going to be a big change, and it's a massive building, to go from nothing to a massive building. But I think with the gables and broken up and clapboard, and if there's things to do with the the way the windows are designed, and so that it really kind of fits in with the, the 100-year-old 3 families that are in this neighborhood, I think it can work.
Well, I can
You
appreciate
don't want
that.
something that's so modern.
Yeah, of course.
You want it to be residential, but it's also an apartment building. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So it's,
And I think as architects, some of the things we're required to show those 2D elevations.
Yeah.
And what those do is it flattens everything. And so this is why we show these perspectives, so that you can start to see the building, what it would look like if you were passing by. You see the shadows, the setbacks, the massing. And the attention that we try to do is break that scale down.
Well, we talked briefly about color, and granted, if you pick certain colors, it's kind of, you're limited in time. It's popular now, but won't be popular then. But I think if some of these colors, I mean, obviously grays and off-whites and stuff, they last forever as far
Yeah,
as.
of course.
So I think that if there is some sort of color differentiation also, with the clapboards or whatever, I'd be interested to see what we could make it
Yep.
look like. Because that perspective right there, and it's very similar to the one that's right here, looks much different than when you're looking at it head-on,
Absolutely.
and basically in a two-dimension
Yeah.
illustration. So I think that, a little bit here and there, I think we can make it,
Agreed.
look better.
I'd also like to point out, as a landscape architect, that what you see in this rendering has, vegetation in it. It creates more context. It screens the building a little bit. So I think once we, if we see an updated rendering, or once we look at the landscape plan, we'll see that it's not going to be a wall of building. There's going to be more detail to the site and more softening of that architecture, I think.
Exactly, softening with the
And that's
trees and
exactly
so
what
on.
I said from the get-go. I think that if we had that presentation, it would, to me, it would look more appealing than what I'm looking at. That's my point.
Yeah, I think for
Yeah,
for your
so-
purposes, looking at the rendering like this gives you a better idea of
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, as opposed to the elevation, which is more informational,
Yeah.
as opposed to what the aesthetics will be.
And of course, traffic, I'm not even going to talk about more traffic. It's 20 more apartments, right?
Well, we're gonna get into that at some point, right?
Yep.
Parking and
I'm not,
traffic,
yeah.
yeah. Anyone else? Any other comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record, Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions that I need to ask. To strengthen the record, I wanted to ask Mr. Haskett, have you reviewed the Cumberland Planning Department staff report of November 26, 2025?
I have.
In particular, have you reviewed the findings of fact contained in that staff report that start at page 7?
I have.
Within those areas of your expertise acknowledged by the planning board tonight, do you agree with those findings?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is our engineer, Mr. Andrus. His name is up there, and his resume is next in your packet. If you would be willing to consider Mr. Andrus an expert in the field of engineering.
I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Andrus as a expert witness.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Butler, second by Mr. Scout. All in favor? Opposed? Chair votes yes. Motion carries.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman and Board and staff. Nice to be back here again. My name is Stephen Andrus. Last name's Andrus, and I'm a professional engineer. I work for Commonwealth Engineers and Consultants in Providence. And I just want to run through the site plans, basically. Oops. If I can figure out how to operate Joe's computer. So I was gonna, I went one too many. Just wanted to start with the I was just going to start with the existing plans. I think you're all familiar with the site. We have the church, there's the existing parsonage building. We've got a small shed garage in the back and another garage here as well, and a very large asphalt parking area. So with our revised plan, since we were last here on the 25th, we have made the actual building, got a little bit smaller. The porch was realigned. As Joe mentioned, we redid the entrance area here. We've reworked the sidewalks in the courtyard here, done some pervious pavers. I believe it was asked for when we were here before. We put a sidewalk back in on this side of the church. And we found a couple more parking spaces than we had before when the building got a little bit smaller. So we have more lot coverage than we had in existing conditions, but we do have less lot coverage than we were previously approved for. And surprisingly enough, when I looked at the numbers the other day, we actually have less asphalt on the site. We have more coverage, and it's mostly in buildings and sidewalks. And I'm trying to see this a little better. Went the wrong way. Utilities on the site are very similar to what we had before. We have to start at an existing manhole down here, and we're going to extend the sewer system down the street. Previously, with our former design, we had a lot more connections with the townhouses up here. It's a little simpler now. It comes down the street, jumps back and down around into the courtyard and picks up both the buildings back here. We're still going with the same water supply that we had before. We got both domestic and fire water coming into the church building. We'll have a water room there in the basement. And then that will feed over to a utilities room over here, which will have all the fire alarm, sprinkler controls and things like that will be located in the new building. And for drainage, we're still going with underground stormwater infiltration all the way around. So I've got 3 underground infiltration areas under the parking lot. And I've got one over here in the courtyard. The one in the courtyard picks up the majority of the existing church. And these pick up the parking lots and the impervious areas over here. And a portion of the new building's roofs will get over to one of the infiltration systems on this side. As far as stormwater goes, we're down to about 87% of what existing conditions were. So for both DEM, DOT, and NBC, we just have to meet existing conditions. So we're way above and beyond what is required by any of those regulatory agencies. The grading on the site, which is shown on here, we tried to keep it as close to the existing as we can. We do have a little increase here where the fire road out of the back's got to climb up over an existing wall. That's the same as it was before. The fire department had requested the secondary access out of the back. And as far as from when we were here in September, that's about it for the changes that we have. I don't know if you have any questions besides the handicap parking. So common question on this. I've been through it with several people. So we looked at, I'm gonna try and back up. There we go. So I have the handicap parking right in here. At each striping, there's the handicap ramps. And so along here, there's parking with curbing. If you come out here, it's relatively flat. You need to have the handicap accessibility all the way around the vehicles and to get to the striping and get onto the sidewalk. So there's the traditional, the curb comes over, goes down 6 inches and 6 feet, goes flat, goes back up, goes over. So that works out fine down here in a flat area. This sidewalk is running uphill. If you try to do that, so I did it for the architects. I swung the parking around and I put it over there. Well, what happens is you're coming uphill on the sidewalk and you get to the first striping for the handicap. Now you go downhill. Now you go down 6 inches and 6 feet. You're going to go flat across the landing. You're going to go up 6 inches and 6 feet. You're going to go back to the flat sidewalk pitch. It's even with the curb. Then you're going to go down again, across another landing, up the other side and over again. And that's really, it's just an awkward scenario for anybody to try and use that sidewalk afterwards. So it's just a lot smoother coming up through from where I've got it as far as a straight shot. We have looked at, and we could probably put some handicap parking over here and come across and see if we could get a ramp over here. But this sidewalk worked out on its own, making the grade back that it's less than the handicap standards. It's just a little under, right around 2%, maybe a little bit less. So we opted to just hold those natural grades and keep the handicap
that
there.
explanation makes sense. I was just trying to visualize it. I mean,
No,
the
you look at it
pace folks
flat
don't-
like that, it's trying to get that, and
yeah, the pace folks won't be driving, so they obviously won't need the handicap spots. So it would be other people in the complex. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So one of the parking spaces, one of the handicaps, and it's slightly oversized, and that is for the Pace bus. So Pace will have a bus there to take people to appointments, take them shopping, whatever they need to. So they have the dedicated spot for that. And then we have 3 additional handicap parking spaces as well.
Excuse me, I have a question about the ADA. So
Yes.
in the narrative, it says that there are 2 ADA spots. Clearly, there are 4 on the plan here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So it says that of those 2 will be ADA, talking about the 63 spaces. 1 will be for a handicap accessible van, and 1 will be dedicated handicap space for the Pace bus. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But the other thing is that it says in the narrative that there are 3 ADA units.
Yes.
So should there be 1 space at least for each of those ADA units?
I might have missed the word regular in there. There's 2 regular handicap spaces. So that's just a space on each side with the 5 foot in the middle. And then the Pace bus and the other handicap space are set up as bus spaces. So they're 8, 8, and 8 across. So there's a total of 4 handicap spaces, 2 regular size handicap spaces, 1 van space, and a second van space for the Pace bus.
Okay.
So we do have 4 altogether.
But would you be required to have another ADA space for the other ADA unit, since there are 3 units?
There are 3. There's 2 regular there's 4 units, there's 4 spaces, 1 for the Pace bus, 1 that's van accessible, and 2 that are car accessible.
I see, so the van space is kind of an overlap.
Well, for myself, whenever I do handicap parking, my first handicap parking space is a van space. And then I fill in the rest, afterwards with regular spaces. So that's why I've got the 1 van space and the 2 regulars, and then the Pace bus is just on the other side and took what would be the other side of the van space the way they're there.
I just want to make sure that, what the plan and the narrative say,
Yeah, I
agree.
might have missed it. I usually try to spell it out that I've got, 1 handicap van, 2 regular, and then the 1 for the Pace bus. I might have missed the word regular in there.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that we were covered.
Okay.
Question on the handicap.
Yes, sir.
Is there curbing? You got a sidewalk area, is it a curbing where if you got in a wheelchair, you get out and you got to hop up?
No, when you come out in the parking lot level here, you go straight right into a landing.
Flush.
Yeah, so as you come up to the parking lot where it's striped, 6 feet before the stripe starts, it dives at 6 inches and 6 feet. And then you got a flat landing where the striping lands, and then you go back up onto the.
What comes to mind, because
sidewalk.
I've been over to Kettle Point dozens of times, and there's oodles and oodles of handicap. Where all the handicapped spots are, it's flush. There's a curbing, but it's very flush with the asphalt. And it's so much easier for anybody in a wheelchair, or even somebody in crutches or a walker, that they don't have to step up. So,
Yeah, no, you shouldn't have to step up at all. Everything meets full ADA access as far as, grading and the curbing and stuff. I usually do that. I have them drop the curbstone flat and put with the ramp up on either side of it.
I like that. Anyone else?
I have a stormwater question.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
The 87% figure that you mentioned, you're saying that's an 87% reduction of stormwater from the existing that is running off the site?
Yeah, so in existing conditions, because I went through this with James at the TRC meeting, we were before, we're a little less than half of the existing, and James he wanted me to do a little bit more, so I went back and looked at it. So total coming off the site right now in a 100-year storm is 9.6 roughly CFS, or 0.8 acre feet. And we're down to, on the 100-year storm, total coming off the site is 1.2 CFS, 0.06 acre feet. So that's a pretty significant reduction. I mean, we've reduced the overall runoff by over 8 CFS and reduced it by 0.75 acre feet. That's just on the 100-year storm.
Okay, great, thank you.
picking up from your drainage questions, you're picking up the drainage from the buildings, the roof.
Yes, sir.
Now, is that running through gutters and drain, or is that just coming off and then just plain runoff that goes off into the?
No, all of the roof, including there's a couple of areas on the church over here that are still going to continue to run onto the ground.
Okay.
But with the road going in, it kind of makes a ponding back in here. So we have drains in that area that will pick that up. And then all of the rest of it is all being picked up and piped directly to an infiltration area.
Thank you.
And I even I've got some yard drains going right across the front here, right before it gets to the retaining wall going along the street that will pick up any other runoff coming off from the site, from the sidewalks and such.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
No, I'll just comment, I mean, I did like to see the yard drains on the site plan, and it kind of reminded me of the way things used to be on Broad Street before IDOT came in and did some of the additional drainage work that Broad Street used to have some very significant stormwater problems prior to the work that was done 4 or 5 years ago. So I probably would have been a little more concerned if that wasn't there, but with the improvements on Broad Street and seeing how you design the drainage running along it, I think that's very good.
We should be good. Like I say, I'm more than meeting DEM or the DOT. DOT criteria is you just got to match 25-year volume in your runoff, and I'm well below that. NBC is going to look at it, but as we're not connecting, it's not a combined storm. They'll look at it. They'll give me a stormwater permit saying you can't put any here, but they're going to review it as well. So after James gets done with it, I got 3 more review agencies to take a look at that.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have 2.
Sure.
My friend, Mr. Steve. Just for the record, building it. Steve, have you also reviewed the Cumberland Planning Department staff report dated November 26, 2025?
Yes, I have.
In particular, have you reviewed the findings of fact that start on page 7 of the staff report?
Yes, sir, I have.
Within the areas of your expertise, do you agree with those findings?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next expert is Diane Sewell, our landscape architect. It's my recollection, since she was with us last time, that you authorized her as an expert in landscape architecture, and I'm hoping you'll consider that again. But I did give you the resume in case.
Yeah, she's good to go. I think me and especially, I don't know about the rest of the board, I'm sure Mr. D'Ambrosia is very aware of who she is and what she does and her expertise.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Diane Soule, I'm a registered landscape architect in Rhode Island, S-O-U-L-E. And we have put together the landscape plan based on the Code of Ordinances, Section 8 of the Land Development and Development Plan Review Design Standards for Cumberland. And we meet all the standards with one exception. When I get to that area along the south side, I can speak more to that. All right, let's figure out how this works. Okay, down. Thank you. Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is a little larger than the one on the screen previously. So as I mentioned, we're meeting the code for the landscape requirements. I'll just start, oh, we have to hold it in, got it. I'll start along Broad Street here. Here we have street trees and a uniform hedge of different plant materials behind the sidewalk and the front of the buildings, basically skirting along the backside of the wall with street trees here, and then additional landscaping at this entrance. Then on down to the left, we've got the entrance to the church with additional trees there. And the courtyard was mentioned earlier, which is this area here. It's surrounded by walks that tie into the building, and then 2 seating areas, one up top and one down below on permeable pavers or decorative pavers. And then that whole courtyard is skirted with plantings that buffer the hardscape of the buildings, or the facades of the buildings. Then coming along to the corner here, going up Church Street, we have existing mature trees, and we've supplemented that with additional vegetation and created, in this area, it's a little hard to see, there's a seating alcove that's surrounded by plantings that buffer and create like I'll call it a secret garden in that area for residents to enjoy. Going on up to the secondary entrance, we have a transformer here that we're screening. We have additional street trees. And into the property this way, we've got trees between the property and the neighbor. And on down through here, we've got street trees and additional plantings. In this area, we have in the entrance down here, we have additional plantings, and in through here as well. For this entrance, we've added plantings there to soften and make more interesting the entrance into the building. Then coming along the east side, and then this is where we don't meet the code requirement of, let's see, I can tell you what it is. The south side, we're required to have 5 trees and 11 shrubs. We have 3 trees and 8 shrubs because of the very narrow width here. We couldn't really fit them in, so we've got 3 trees there, and then we have shrubs up here and down here back into the main entrance to the parking lot. And that's pretty much an overview of the plan. Are there any questions?
Mrs. Ambrosia?
No, I think it's a very nice, well put together plan. I think that it provides adequate foundation screening and provides a lot of context to the site and scale with the trees. I think it's going to look really nice.
Thank you.
I'll share similar comments, since I just mentioned the Broad Street project. One thing that was peeved about, and I know previous planning director on this as well, when that project was completed, was it right off shortchanged the town and some of the street trees that the town wanted. So it's always good to see a project that is putting more street trees in, something the town has wanted for Broad Street and Valley Falls, and I think so this is great, so I share the sentiments of my colleague.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, that concludes our formal presentation. Our team is here. If
Okay.
there are any other questions?
Sure. Well, we'll move right along to the public hearing portion. If there's anyone in the audience or who is maybe watching us virtually, if you have any questions or comments, please come forward and give us your name and address. For the record, if you're to the podium, if you're in person, and if you're on us virtually, all you have to do is click that little button that will raise your hand, and we will hear you. Mr. Modica?
There's no one virtual.
No one? And is there anyone here? Okay. Then I'll close the public hearing at, let's see, 7:38 p.m. Restrict comments to the board. Anyone? Anyone?
Nobody has any comments? There's 2 motions.
Yeah.
So the first motion in regarding Steeple and Stone, 295 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 266, and 305 Broad Street, Assessors Plat 4, Lot 264. I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plan application, and based on the findings of fact in the Planning Department's memo to the Planning Board dated November 26, 2025, certified that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This approval does come with adjustments from residential density maximum lot coverage, number of buildings on a lot, and from the requirement that a commercial use be incorporated into the development. End of motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do
Oh,
I
I'm
have-
sorry.
Well,
With the following conditions, merge lots 266 and 264 through an administrative subdivision and obtain a Rhode Island Department of Transportation physical alteration permit. Now, end of motion.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. D'Ambrosia. I just have one question on the commercial. What was what did you move?
Mr. Monica said that this project normally would have to have a commercial component because it's in a commercial, so we're basically granting a waiver because it's going to be all residential.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear for the record. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Okay. Mr. Zook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Scown,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill? Yes. Ms. Reese? Mr. D'Ambrosia? Yes. Mr. Costa?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion carries 7 yea and 1 nay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a second motion that we approve the performance and maintenance bond in the amount of $186,942 based on the information in Mr. Entow's memo to the planning board dated November 25th, 2025.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scown. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Good luck. Yeah. Just for the record, I really do like this plan. I like the additional green space. And the only thing is, I hope we can come up with a little bit of a kind of consensus as to what we want the building to look like, texture-wise, color, and so on. I think that would certainly help Ms. Reese at this point, but I do appreciate her comment at this point because we've had other proposals come to us and it looks so institutional, but it's difficult to look at a two-dimensional drawing and not be able to see, the actual perspective as what it looks like. That being said, we'll move on. Okay. Item number 5, Director's Report, passage of ordinance number 25-22A, multiple residences on a lot. Mr.
Yeah, just real quick, the ordinance relates multiple residences on a lot related to comprehensive permits where we amended that and that passed with very quickly. So town council had no issues with that. I do want to mention, I've gone back and forth on having a comprehensive permit on the agenda, and I spoke with our council, Mr. Ardente and Ms. Salvatore, and they suggested that if we're going to talk about it, we should talk about it on a project-by-project basis when we get the comprehensive permits about what adjustments are being requested for that project based on those circumstances of the individual project, based on that site, based on that neighborhood, and that kind of thing. So I think we'll just save the discussion and do it as we go. Okay.
Good advice.
All right.
I have a question.
Mr. O'Neill.
The handout you have for this, the town did just receive a grant for the comp plan, is that correct?
We received a grant to do our housing element. We've got 3 grants actually, to do our housing element of the comp plan, to look at doing a transit-oriented development overlay from here, Valley Falls, up Broad Street to the Stop and Shop. And the third one was just to update our ordinance and regulations because we haven't been able to keep up with all the changes.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Before we adjourn, this is Mr. Scown's last meeting, so I wanted to make sure, I'm sure I speak for the entire board, that we're going to miss you. I feel like I said something wrong because I'm losing the people on both sides. But it's been great to have somebody on the board that understands the financing, and you've always asked really great questions and helped me to think about, is a project even feasible financially, and what's the stack look like, and how feasible is it? And so I think that's been great. And I know Mr. McDonald escaped without a public goodbye, but I just want to say that we lost Mr. Bush, or Mr. Bush moved out of the town earlier this year, and now Mr. McDonald. I think both of them were always great about being the devil's advocates on this board, and expressing opinions, that maybe I didn't always vote the way they advocated, but it always made me think and gave me pause. And so I think Mr. McDonald's voice will also be missed on the board as well. So hopefully he's watching, and Harry, thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, Mr. Scott and I had a discussion earlier before the meeting, and everything you said is pretty much what I said to him. We certainly appreciate the time he spent with us, and absolutely, the more diverse we can be as a board, the better we will be, because somebody brings something different to the plate, and if they do, they have a different perspective. And I may or may not agree with them, but I want to hear from them, because they may convince me that, you've got a great point, and let's have a discussion or a debate about it. You will be very missed. As well as Mr. McDonald.
I want to thank you for the kind words, but I also want to tell the board and all my colleagues through the years here that I've really learned an awful lot from the planning board and the planning directors and the staff, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. And I'll miss it, but I think it's time for me to move on, and I just hope that some more people that come on that are going to help with the diversity and the comprehensive plan and so forth. So I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask the chairman if he could remind our esteemed Mayor Mutter to perhaps consider citation for our departing planning board members who are getting out there years of service to the town.
So moved. And Mr. Modica, believe that in your hands.
Do that.
Motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Butler, and of course, seconded by Mr. Scone. Thank you, everyone.